Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I have a ton of updates to share with you guys about the Jeffrey Epstein Donald Trump cover up. I have stories about how Trump's team is freaking out because they can't get the story to go away and their plans to use one of the podcast bros to try to stop the bleeding. I also have news about the grand juries that indicted Epstein and his longtime girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. We found out over the last weekend that the Trump administration violated Justice Department orders or rules to benefit her, Maxwell meaning. And also, Trump has now said on video why he doesn't want to release any more Epstein information. And more evidence has now been uncovered showing that Trump's first attorney general either lied about his investigation into Epstein's death or he was completely incompetent. It's also now abundantly clear that right-wing media and also in Trump's team, they're trying to soften the public. They're trying to warm them to the idea of a possible pardon for Maxwell. So before I get into all these details, though, please do me a huge favor. Hit the subscribe button below. It is free for you to become a subscriber. It really helps the show. So greatly appreciate that. And to everyone who donates, you're the best. You're the best around. Anyway, I always forget how that song goes. Anyway, so here's what's new with this whole Epstein Maxwell Trump story. It was just reported this morning that Trump's team, or actually, no, excuse me, it was yesterday morning, that Trump's team is panicking because they haven't been able to turn the page on this Epstein cover up. So what they're going to try to do is they're going to do a couple things. They're going to use a couple new tactics. So first of all, according to the Daily Beast, senior Trump officials are planning to hit up Joe Rogan and they're going to beg him to help. So they're supposedly going to ask him to have on Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche and to try to convince Rogan's audience that, oh, we're taking this Epstein investigation seriously and, this is nothing and Trump is totally innocent and has been exonerated. Not sure if that's going to work because Rogan, as I've shared with you guys, he's been pretty clear he's not buying this manure that they're shoveling. He might have them on or have him on for the clicks, but I don't know. I don't think that anything is going to change the public perception at this point about this cover up because they just refuse to release the files. So, I mean, that's the big sticking point. Everybody's like, okay, that's great, but where's the Epstein files? Why can't you just release them? And Trump's team has a second, somewhat related plan. So evidently, they're currently sifting through the meeting, all the notes and the recording from the meeting that Blanche had with convicted child sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell. And they might release some of the audio recordings and or the transcripts this week. So there were 3 sources who told the Daily Beast that Vice President J.D. Vance hosted a dinner at his residence last night. And guess who was on the guest list? So Todd Blanche, the current Deputy AG, the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and FBI Director Yash Patel. So they were going to discuss, they're denying this, but they were saying they were going to discuss whether or not to release all of this highly curated information and whether or not to send Blanche out on a media tour or to maybe hold a press conference or maybe even both. And the sources said their concern and why they wanted to get together to talk about this was that they were concerned that releasing this audio might start the whole thing up again. Like in their minds, the whole Epstein thing has died down a little bit. So we don't know if we should like spark the fire again, keep the embers burning. First of all, it hasn't died down. I mean, bro podcasters are still talking about this and pissed off. But second, I could have sworn there was like a big brouhaha, big like uprising and oh, how horrible it was that someone from the DOJ met on the tarmac with Bill Clinton. What was it? Not Lynch. I forget which one it was. Maybe it was Lynch. That when Hillary was being investigated, or she hadn't been indicted, but she was under investigation. MAGA had a complete meltdown over that. Remember that? Oh, they happened to pass, on the tarmac as one was coming and one was going on a plane, and they stopped to have a little chat. And oh my gosh, this is such a scandal. Now all of a sudden, you've got the attorney general, the deputy attorney general, and the FBI director going over to have dinner at the vice president's home to discuss a major scandal involving the president, and that he may be involved with a child sex trafficking ring. But not a word. Totally legit in MAGA mind, right? I mean, that's a whole culture in itself, I guess. MAGA mind. Anyway, speaking of trying to sweep this under the rug and not wanting to, bring this up again, Donald Trump has laid out his latest excuse. So he was just interviewed, and he gave his latest excuse for not wanting to release these Maxwell jailhouse interviews, or I guess any part of it. So let me see if I can bring this up for you guys.
I want to release everything. I just don't want people to get hurt. You can't have people associated. First of all, the files were run by some very bad people and very sick people like Comey and Lisa, the whole group, all those people in that office. They ran those files for 4 years. And if they were going to use the files, they would have used it before my election. Right. Because unless they're stupid, which to a certain extent they are stupid.
You're saying they would have released the information?
Well, they had the files. They control the files. Yes. I didn't control the files. They control the files for 4 years. So if they had something, they would have released it before the election. Because they are not geniuses, but, they're evil.
Right.
There are a lot of evil people.
Yeah. If you guys saw my other video today about what an former Israeli intelligence official said, you would know why the Democrats chose not to release anything. Because it is, what's the phrase, mutual destruction, guaranteed mutual destruction. The Israeli government has dirt on both sides of the aisle. It's just that simple. But yeah, he doesn't want to hurt anyone. Really? That's why you're going after Obama. That's why you're going after every political enemy you have. You don't want to hurt anyone. So anyway, yesterday, the oversight committee, the House Oversight Committee, issued again, I'm getting my days mixed up because I took off yesterday, just so you guys know. I have a clogged tear duct, ended up in the urgent care on Tuesday evening with a massive head pain, like I felt like someone was stabbing me in the head with a knife. Fun stuff over here. Anyway. So that's why I didn't record yesterday. I had no videos for yesterday. So if I sound like I'm off on my days, that's why I'm off by a day. But anyway, I think it was on either Monday or Tuesday. They issued a bunch of subpoenas. They issued a subpoena to the Justice Department to obtain the Epstein files. They also issued subpoenas to other people. So let me see if I can find that for you guys. So you can see here, James Comer, he's the head of that committee. So they issued all these subpoenas for depositions from government officials or former government officials, including Bill Barr, Donald Trump's former AG, Merrick Garland, Biden's AG, James Comey, Even the former president, Bill Clinton, and former Secretary of State, his wife, Hillary Clinton. Oddly, here's who they didn't subpoena. They did not subpoena former Trump official Alex Acosta. That is significant because Alex Acosta was the U.S. attorney who gave Epstein that slap on the wrist sweetheart deal. The guy who granted total and complete immunity to all of Epstein's co-conspirators for no apparent reason. Like, they got nothing for it. It wasn't like, oh, you give us somebody really high profile and we will cut you this sweetheart deal. No, they just did it out of the goodness of their hearts, apparently. So apparently they don't want to hear from him. They don't want to hear from the guy who could tell them exactly what went down and why he gave Epstein that incredible deal where he got, and keep in mind, Julie K. Brown did a ton of investigation and a ton of reporting on this. She works for the Miami Herald. So she had reported that there were supposedly over 100 victims. Okay? 100 child sex trafficking victims, supposedly. This guy gets hit with a lesser charge of soliciting prostitution of 2 people. 2 charges soliciting underage prostitution. These were not prostitutes. These were victims. Not only that, but they went behind the victim's back to make this deal. That is why they were able to hold Maxwell accountable. So that was like, silver lining, like, blessing in disguise there, because the judge later ruled years later that no, you have to go to the victims. There are rules in this country, there are laws in this country, and you have to go to the victims and let them know that you're making this deal. They did not do that. They went behind the victim's back, made this deal with Epstein. He got 13 months of work release. Not 13 months in jail, not 13 months in prison, 13 months of work release. So he was in jail at night only. During the day, he got to leave and go to work. Yeah. And then come back, like 12, 14 hours later, spend the night in jail, and then leave again the next day for 13 months. That's it. Meanwhile, as I've said before, his victims got a life sentence. So they didn't want to hear from him. And, speaking of not wanting to hear from people who might actually have valuable information, check this out. So several news outlets reported that the juries grand juries only heard from 2 people. They did not, this is for the Epstein case and in the Ghislaine Maxwell case. The Justice Department's filings recently showed that the grand juries only heard from 2 of the 2 or 3 law enforcement officers. So no victims were called to speak to these grand juries. So this just goes to show you guys, this cover-up has been going on for a long, long time, and it spans both political parties. This happened under the Democrats and Republican administrations. And speaking of which, the cover-up, so CBS, as you guys know, I talked about this the other day, they've been doing a deep dive. They published another article and laid out the details of more inconsistencies surrounding Epstein's death. So there are tons of inconsistencies between what the officials have said and what the evidence shows. So I will show you guys this. CBS wrote, quote, "The review doesn't refute the conclusion that Epstein died by suicide, but it raises questions about the strength and credibility of the government's investigation, which appears to have drawn conclusions from the video that are not readily observable." They laid out these inconsistencies between the government's allegations and what they found. So, for example, Trump's administration said, quote, "Anyone entering or attempting to enter the tier where Epstein's cell was located from the SHU," which is the unit where he's housed in, where it was located from the SHU common area, would have been captured by this footage. That is not the case. So according to, let me take this off the screen here. According to CBS, they said, quote, "The video cross-referenced with diagrams of the Epstein holding area does not appear to support that finding. That becomes," sorry guys, I lost the quote here. "That becomes obvious in the first 10 minutes of the video. Epstein's cell was in the L block, accessible via a staircase from the special housing unit's common area. When Epstein appears on camera, he is seen walking toward the stairs leading to his cell. But since the staircase is almost entirely out of view from the camera, he is never seen ascending the stairs. The entrance to Epstein's cell is, as well as the primary entrance to the SHU, are off camera in the same direction, meaning there is no way to tell from the video if he went to his cell or exited the SHU. While brief movement is occasionally visible on the stairs, when someone is walking up the left side, the area remains mostly obscured throughout the recording, making it impossible to determine if someone may have entered the SHU through the primary entrance and accessed the staircase without ever being captured in the recording." In a nutshell, they lied. Either they lied or Bill Barr is a complete moron, because the staircase leading to Epstein's cell is not visible in these videos. So they have no idea if someone actually went up there and murdered him that night. And 5 video forensics experts looked at the video. CBS asked them to look at this video. They all concurred. They said, "Yep, you're right." And as I've shared in previous videos, there was that mysterious orange figure that moved up the staircase towards Epstein's cell that night. It's very obviously someone in a prison jumpsuit. My guess would be they, maybe paid off someone who was already in for murder, or, that wanted to get out early, or something. So I would look at records of maybe early releases, or people who came into some money all of a sudden, criminals that came into some money all of a sudden, or their families that came into money. There's also the issue of the missing minutes from the video that I've mentioned before, the fact that a cursor appears in the video, which indicates that this was a screen capture that Pam Bondi pushed out to everyone and tried to say that it was original video, it was raw footage direct from the prison. And real quick, I want to share with you guys what one of my amazing viewers told me. So he said he's a video technician, and he gave me some possible explanations for why they would choose to screen record the video instead of sharing the original raw footage as they claimed. So he said, number one, the original file name would be hidden. So yeah, if you're sharing the raw video, it's going to show that it came from the prison, right? They don't want that to be seen because they did a little finagling, as we found out. They did a little editing. 2, he said there would be no access to the actual metadata. So that's another clue, right? The metadata is like the hardcore data. You would know where it came from, that it was the original video, that it was raw footage, that it wasn't edited. So they wanted to obscure that. He also said no access to camera recording data, such as the type of file. So again, you don't want people knowing that you did a little, quick fix with editing tools. And so you don't want them to see the type of file that you have. Although we did get to see, as we know from Wired news outlet, that yeah, they did a little editing magic with Adobe Pro. And so yeah, we figured that out anyway, or somebody figured it out. Also, he said the file transfer can be intercepted via an email or a cloud, meaning basically, if they tried to transfer this file, if the prison said, hey, we're going to send it to you. I mean, there's only a few ways that you can send a file of this size. I mean, you're looking at like 11 hours of video footage. You would have to send that via Dropbox or Google Docs or a file transferring service of some sort, because it's too big to send via email. So they wouldn't want that video to be intercepted in some way or downloaded by somebody else. Also, he said that the video would be of lower quality, so people wouldn't be able to enhance the images. That, to me, seems like a very plausible explanation. They don't want people seeing who this orange figure is moving up the stairs, right? You don't want to be able to make out that, oh, that's Epstein and he's going up a different staircase than the one they said that we would be able to see if somebody went up to kill him. So anyway, all great suggestions, all very plausible. And even though Attorney General Pam Bondi claimed that the cameras reset every night and that's why some of the footage was missing, CBS found something really interesting. They found that the aspect ratio of the final minutes of that video that she shared, it changed ever so slightly. So I'm going to play it for you. Take a look at this CBS clip, or the clip that they shared. And you guys are going to notice that the image appears to shift when the counter hits 11:58 and 58 seconds. So that is the timer that you're going to see in the lower left-hand corner. And this is the video from the prison that Pam Bondi put out and said that, oh, this is the raw footage and, you guys are going to see everything that we saw and blah, blah, blah. So check out not 11 minutes. This is the timer. So it's 11:58 at night. When it hits 11:58 and 58 seconds, you're going to see it shift. So did you guys catch that? And for anybody on the podcast, there is no sound. So that's why there was silence. But I'm going to play that again for you guys so you can see it. But again, check out 11:58 and 58 seconds. So did you see how it looked like the video kind of jumped to one side? So yeah, that was the aspect ratio changing. So that's when you make an edit, you always have to be mindful of that so that, yeah, you don't lose people. Like if, you're editing out something, you want to make sure that like everything is matching up so that it's seamless and people don't see things change. So anyway, like I said, this is the most sloppy cover-up in history. And CBS also found a third unidentified person in the video right before 12:06 a.m. The reason this is significant is because the DOJ Inspector General's report never mentioned this person. They mentioned two other people in the video. They never mentioned that third. And there were other inconsistencies that they found, like they said that in the report, it said, oh, there was no access. These doors were locked. There were only 2 people who had access to those keys. But then you could see other people going in and out of those doors. So it's like, okay, how did they get access? If they did, these aren't the 2 people who you said are the only ones who had the keys. And yet, while all of this is in question, you may have heard this, guys. Ghislaine Maxwell was moved to a low security prison camp. It's been described as having, quote, dorm-like housing where inmates can buy things. They can buy like makeup, they can buy skin cream. This is literally a facility with no outer walls. So like, you know how most prisons will have big old walls on the property so that people can't get away? No, they don't have that. In fact, there was a news story that said that 3 inmates just walked off. They just walked off the property one day because basically these so-called inmates are like on the honor system. This is crazy. And Trump's administration, let me show you guys this. They actually violated rules. There are rules that specifically state, I don't know why I can't find this. Here it is. So the Trump administration broke some rules to move her to what's being called Club Fed. The laws in this country state that if someone is found guilty of being a sex offender, they cannot be housed in a low security facility. Now, Trump's team is saying, oh, well, you know, this was done for her protection because she was receiving death threats after she met with Todd Blanche. They said, you know, the other inmates were calling her a snitch because she met with government officials. This is so blatant that Trump and his allies are just trying to soften the blow. They are clearly just trying to get everybody familiar with, accepting of, and comfortable with the idea of a pardon. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Newsmax, their host, Greg Kelly, he made a just disgusting comment, I think it was last week, that, oh, Maxwell very well may be a victim in all of this. That was bad enough. And then the other day, you guys have to hear what he said. This is just so vile.
Maxwell didn't have a friend in the world. He could have easily gotten away with saying, you know, what the media wanted to hear. But he didn't. And I find that remarkably human, and it's telling, and it signals to me that there's something else going on here and that it's an injustice. Ghislaine Maxwell, he would talk about, and he did it in a certain way. Now, folks, I know people are horrified when I say there's a possibility that this individual just might be innocent. But think about it. Who's told us about her? The most reviled institutions in America, right? The media and the Biden Justice Department.
Yeah. First of all, she didn't have a friend in the world because she has been convicted of child sex trafficking. And no, pedophile apologist Greg Kelly, the media didn't convict Maxwell. The Biden Justice Department did not convict Maxwell. The jury convicted Maxwell. They heard from the victims, they looked at the evidence, and they convicted her. These people have lost what little they have left of their minds. You know, now that Trump looks guilty, all of a sudden, groomers are the real victims, you guys. We need to have compassion. Trump has compassion for groomers and child sex predators. Imagine how these people's heads would explode if Biden or the Clintons or any Democrat had said that Ghislaine Maxwell might be innocent or she might be a victim in all of this. Unfreaking believable. And here's more proof that Trump is considering a pardon for this monster. So take a look at this. Let me see if I can find this clip for you. GOP lawmakers are reportedly warning Trump against a pardon. They know what's going on. They know where this is at. If they're warning Trump, it's because they're hearing rumblings of a pardon. It's that simple. So don't say I didn't warn you. If this happens, we saw it coming. All right, guys, thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like, please share, and subscribe. Please donate if you can. Love you all. Take care. Talk with you soon.